an anchor. You know what I mean? Like in your life, like, hey, look, I'm putting this down. This is it. And do not go past it for whatever reason. And there are emotional boundaries, there are physical boundaries, there are different types of boundaries that we set up in our life. And Roland had talked about kind of both of those in the same sense, but they can both be divided at the same time too. So I think boundaries, in a sense, I can't come up with a different word right now other than like a limitation.
I I'm definitely there with y'all. It's a limitation, uh, but it, it can all be classified as limitation, but it's a borderline, right? There's some areas and there's some things that I don't really dance into, right? I don't play in that realm, so we're not gonna cross those lines, right? Uh, yeah, I remember what was it, Bad Boys 2, right? We're gonna create a box, and there's some things we're gonna put in that box. You remember he put the stuff in the box. He said, "Now we're gonna toss that box into the ocean." Right? And that's boundaries. He set boundaries. He at that moment in that movie, he said, "Listen, from this point on, these are our boundaries. We're not going to talk about this, and we're not going to cross that line." And he made it clear. Let's throw that in the box and toss it out there. And so it becomes my job to guard those things. Uh, Keep it
Okay,
sweet.
I like it. I do like the box analogy. Uh, Welcoming the youngest of, well, I'm sorry, not the youngest, the second youngest on the panel because everybody loves Chris, unlike the clip we seen earlier. Chris, welcome to the show, brother. Good to see you.
Greetings. My apologies for my tardiness.
Nope, you good, man. You had good reason. Don't worry about that. It's an honor to have you as always. So we're talking about boundaries, and we're pretty much defining boundaries real quick. Don't want to kind of throw you in the fire, but if you have a response, by all means, chime in. Um, Roland said that there are limitations. Garfield and Gaddy agree. Um, for whatever reason, I don't want to call it a limitation. I want to call it a structure. Um, because within the scope, like I look at boundaries from a couple of different perspectives. Boundaries keep things out, but it also keep things in. So when you look at it, a boundary, even though it has limitations on both sides, it also is a structure to help kind of define a particular thing. It kind of tells you where the end of that thing is, and so forth and so on. So that's kind of like my perspective. Not saying that mine is more accurate or anything of that nature. It's just the way I view it.
Yeah, I also looked at it just as simple as just like it's a dividing line. It's just something that just divides this from that, one from two, or whatever it is.
Are we
Muted.
talking?
Oh, go ahead. No, you good.
Are,
You good. You good.
okay. Are we talking boundaries as a whole, like how you deal with people, or boundaries within your own personal circle?
Well, we're not
Just
dealing with
what
them. Yeah, just what is it? We're not dealing with anybody yet.
Ah, well, to me, a boundary is what you will and will not tolerate. If you want to base level it, that's really all I see as what a boundary is. This is what I'm willing to put up with. This is what I am not willing to put up with. Now, if you cross that, then we have an issue.
I like it. I like it. Here's the best thing I like about all of it, and we didn't go pull Webster's or anything of that nature because I don't really believe in Webster's a whole lot. But what you heard is like different responses when it comes down to what boundaries are, and I think because of that, what you will also what you can also come to the conclusion of is that when it comes down to dealing with people, people perceive boundaries different as well. And so I think as we dive into this conversation, we'll start to unpack some of that stuff. So I want to make sure I'm honoring everybody as well before we go forth. Let me see, starting up here. Welcome to the show, Christian Barrow. Good to see you, brother. Nick D, good to see you as always. Miss Verlene, Queen V McCoy, good to see you. May Bird, welcome to the show. Good to see you. Cassandra, I don't know if I spoke to you earlier, but if I did not, welcome to the show. Dracar Brown, good to see you. If I mispronounced your name, please forgive me.
That's right.
That's it, right? Okay, good. Let's see. I think I got Bernadette Simmons, but if I didn't, welcome to the show. Also Adrian Walthour, I hope I said that right. Welcome to the show. Good to see you. And as always, man, it is an honor to have you here as well as everybody else. So Michelle Ray says that boundaries protect our personal space. Boundaries protect our personal space, physical and mental health, and our safety and security of our peace being undisturbed. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. Let me see. Going back up, Cassandra said that a boundary is a perimeter around a comfort zone or personal space. Ooh, we're gonna kind of dive into that. I like that. I think Bernadette was commenting to the clip that we played when she said clearly when the boundaries were set, it wasn't taken seriously. And let me see. Miss Verlene McCoy says everyone needs their own personal space. And last but not least, Dracar said boundaries are absolutely necessary. And I agree 100%. So as we like to do, we like to talk about certain scenarios, right? And so I believe the scenario in this particular one, which I think is going to be very eye-opening, involves Jacob and Maria. Now, they are a married couple, both employed, who share common household expenses. Recently, Maria made a significant purchase of $30,000 for the sake of her growth and development without consulting Jacob, causing tension in their relationship. When confronted, Maria posits the purchase would make for a deeper and more fulfilling relationship for years to come. Jacob isn't having any version of her story and rebuts that her behavior is self-centered. So first and foremost, I want to dive in what is known as understanding boundaries, because I think in the scenario we've seen previously, there may have been some assumptions that we can come up with based upon their behavior. So given Jacob and Maria's situation, what could be the consequences of not having established financial boundaries in their relationship?
Divorce.
Man.
I mean, shoot. I mean, that's the worst. But if she dropped $30,000, so without talking to her husband, now they must have a bunch of money. But I'm thinking regular people, if you just go and take $30,000 of our money, I would like to know prior to this, even because you say it's going to benefit me. Let me decide if I want that benefit. Don't just surprise and I gotta, now you know how to make cheesecake because you've been sitting with Gordon Ramsay. No, I would like to know whether I think it's worth it, and I think respect is definitely a boundary that has been crossed here.
You said that too nice. I would like to know. You better tell me when you about to drop 5 figures on something in our house. Are you serious? And we sharing expenses? Now, like you said, if we got bread like that, then that's different. You know what I'm saying? 30 racks is nothing. But if we're just an average rumble tumble, run of the mill kind of married couple, and you take $30,000 and don't talk to me, we're going to have a discussion and it's not going to be pleasant. I am not going to be nice at all. No. Are you kidding me? That's one of the consequences. An unhealthy, angry conversation because you just disrespected this entire home by not bringing this to me when you are about to make this big purchase that you say is going to benefit everybody. If it's going to benefit everybody, why would you do it behind my back? Why wouldn't you just come to me and say, hey, I'm about to do this and this is about to benefit everybody. What do you think?
So let me ask this, because I heard something what you just said. Correct me if I'm wrong, I heard you say that it makes a difference based upon their income status.
30 racks is a lot of money to a lot of people.
Right. But if you B and J, that's $3.
I think even if you are right, if you being Jay, right, I think there's a boundary set, but boundaries look different when you got their kind of money, right? That boundary looks like this is your credit card. Your spending limit is your spending limit. Once you go past that spending limit, it is what it is until it's paid, right? That might be that case. So then, okay, if 30 racks is within that limit, then it's within that limit. But if you're taking 30 stacks out of our shared account or our savings account, that's a different matter, because for me at least, I'm thinking it's a different matter, because if that's where we pour into and draw from together, then we shouldn't be spending that kind of money. That's a car for common folk, right? That's a car. So what did you just buy? And I'm with Chris on the, if it benefits both of us, don't surprise me with $30,000 missing, because before the surprise get here, we already separated, right? Because you created that problem. But the
I might have already started cursing you out.
Facts. But the question is, what could be the consequences of not establishing financial boundaries? That's the consequence, because you haven't set the boundaries, or even when you saw it, because it didn't just come to $30,000. Kind of like we talked about before. It was a couple of $400 purchases that came up. It was a couple of $1,000, $1,300, $1,500, $5,000. You didn't just jump to $30,000. There was some money missing that you didn't address because you didn't want to argue over money.
Man, them people said she could rent them places and travel here and live in this place for the weekend anytime, any year, and they didn't call it a what's them places called?
Timeshare.
They didn't call it a timeshare, so she bought.
Now, see, but here's the caveat, and Bernadette Simmons did bring this up. If it's her own money that she has, that's not going to affect anything that we do as a whole under this house, okay, that's your money. You spend it the way that you want to, because that is your money. But if it is our money, no.
See, only women have that luxury, because men, we know our money is their money too. But
shit,
I'm like, one of these days, I want to be there when you take that woman walking down the aisle. Woo, the switch up is real when you in love. Nah, but for real, all right. Because the scenario is it leads to it being our money, and regardless of if we have it or not, there might be a plan or a reason why we have 30,000 saved up in the first place. So we need to talk about these kind of purchases.
But see, I don't even think it's about the money. It's about the fact that you just disrespected this house by not talking to me about making this big purchase when we supposed to be in this together. I don't care if it's $400. You couldn't come talk to me and say, hey, I'm about to blow this. I'm about to spend this $400 on something that's going to benefit the house.
So that takes me back to my original question. Does it matter how much money they make?
Yes.
It does?
To me.
So if they
not in the
because like me and my ex, we used to have we used to say, okay, we're gonna split, say $2,000. You get 1,000, I get a month. You get 1,000, I get 1,000. If you go past your 1,000, if you go, that's on you for the month. If I go past,
but that's the boundary.
Right.
But that's the boundary.
So what I'm saying is the amount matters. The amount that you make matters, because if I'm not concerned about said money in the sense where it's not going to affect me, if I'm at $30,000, it's a lot of money to us, but to some people it may not be.
I think,
like you said earlier, like you can, like when you brought up Bay and Jay, Bay can go to Hermes and blow 30 racks on a Birkin bag, and Jay won't think nothing of it.
Am I the only person who don't know who that is?
Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Beyonce and Jay-Z.
That's the new name from Bay and Jay.
But see, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. And this is why I hate social media. We have to stop comparing our middle class 9-to-5 clock punching startup entrepreneur business owning. I got this expensive piece of paper, so that means I can go do this expensive job type thinking and compare that to what the celebrities do. We can't do that. You understand what
But
I'm saying?
I'm still saying it don't matter because we're talking about our money. We're not talking about
We talking about their money.
but even if we're talking about their money, right? If it matters as far as what their limit is. Like you talked about, $2,000 is your boundary, right? $30,000 is outside that boundary. If it's Jay-Z and Beyonce, they probably got business accounts. They probably got, so their structure is completely different because they both got business income and they both probably have personal money, right? So we get that. But as far as what we have together, no, we don't touch that. That's how I'm looking at it. If me and you put money into this specific pot right here, we don't touch that without the other one knowing, whether it's me or you spending, because we are putting into this, and we need to have a conversation. If we decide to do something, you don't make decision with what's in our pot.
Well, I want to know what's next in the scenario, so I can know what she bought for $30,000. What did we buy? Did we get an old Mustang, 1969 Mustang that we got to fix up? What we
can figure that out after I curse her out for taking that money out for and not telling me.
We're gonna get there. What says ye, Uncle Junior?
When you asked about does it have anything to do with how much money they make, I don't think it does. I think it has more to do with what has been talked about it and discussed when it comes to the money. So yeah, you can make $30,000 a year. I might make $80,000 a year. But what did we talk about as far as how this money is going to be divided up and who's going to pay what when it comes to the finances of the family? I think that's more important than who has the biggest account or anything like that. So, and I think one of the I got two. Some of the consequences of not having established financial boundaries are, one, like Chris said, I do think that it comes down to your financial bracket. If you got B&J money, a whole lot different than when you got Uncle Junior money. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different.
I want to talk about Earl and Tina money. Forget B&J.
Earl and Tina money. So, so what you could be doing is you could potentially be hurting your financial future. You know what I mean? You take 30 grand out at one time, depend on where it's from. And if there was in a certain amount of investment account, think about how much compound interest you may not get over a certain amount of time. So you could potentially,
and the taxes you got to pay on it.
And the taxes depend on where you pulled that money from. And then another thing is, I think consequence could be trust. What is the trust going to be like after this? If he felt some kind of way about her taking that money out, then I think there's been some trust that may have been broken there. And I think that's a huge consequence when it comes to a marriage and a relationship, especially when there's 30 bands on the line. You know what I mean? And then there's a trust issue, and someone thought that they were doing the right thing by it. But if it was me, I need to understand, like Roland said, why we take this 30 grand out? Like, what is it going? What is it going to?
Understand all of that, but I am cursing you smooth out for not telling me.
But if you got B&J money, you like, look, man, come on now.
Earl and Tamika, man, we ain't talking about B&J no more. Nobody cares about no B&J. Listen, I will be honest with you. I'm on Team Gaddy and Team Garfield on this one. I don't really care how much money we make. I think for you to make a decision, at this amount of money, for you to make a decision like that on your own, and I don't even want to use the concept of consulting, but if it's not something that we talked about and agreed upon, I'm starting to question you, right? Because whose team are you on? You're on the team of you, or you're on a team of we? And when you do something of that nature, you're showing me in real time that you're on a team of me, myself, and I. So it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with you. B and J, I don't care about them. They can do what they want to do, right? We talking about real folk here. At the end of the day, and let's be honest, I want to bring Bernadette's question in here because I think that is a great question to bring to the table because Bernadette, she kind of add a little seasoning to the gumbo. What question will it have the same impact if it's her own personal monies? Y'all thoughts?
That's what I said earlier. Like if she is pulling from her own account that's not affecting nothing, hey, go spend your money. But you're not spending our money without telling me. You understand what
So
I'm saying?
yes and no. I think it depends on where you are. So I will say this: at one point in my life, if I gave someone some money, I would get upset if they didn't spend it the way I wanted them to spend it. Because I'm just like, look, I just gave you $200 and you went out and bought, I don't know, you went out and bought some makeup. I'm just like, look, you could have bought that thing that you really wanted, or you could have, saved it so you can buy some Christmas later. I don't know, whatever. Right. But then I learned that once I give something to somebody, whatever they do with it is on them. So if we have to establish that this money is her money, I don't care what she do with it at the end of the day. Because if we've already established that she's going to have her little pot and I'm going to have my little pot or whatever like that, we already have made sure that the financial resources for the family are already taken care of first. So if there's an extra 30,000 in her account or whatever, and she doing what she want to do, I could care less. But like I said, the family, well, we gonna be taken care of first before you go out and spend 30.
Any other
That's my 2
thoughts?
cents.
Yeah, I'm with Uncle on this one because if I'm busting my tail and I'm holding the fort down and I ain't got 2 nickels to rub together, and then you say, "Well, this was my money over here," it's like, well, we're not a team because a team member shouldn't see me, taking Miracle Whip sandwiches to work and you out here buying this program. No,
Put salt and pepper on
Miracle
them.
Whip sandwiches.
that's what I used to eat.
With sliced tomatoes. Tomato sandwich.
Ain't had no meat, man.
No meat.
Oh man.
And a wish sandwich. Put 2 pieces of bread together and wish for something in between.
There you go. There you go. Gaddy, what you got, brother?
Hey, I'm with Chris right there. I mean, if it's your money, you spending your money, it is what it is, right? Surprise, thank you. But once again, I'm just big on because to me the amount is not the issue we're talking about. For me, the problem is it's our money, and if it's our money, then we possibly might have a plan of why we're saving money. So let's decide together if it's a good idea to spend any amount of it, right? So I'm with it. If it's your money, you doing you, okay. What they say, do you, boo boo, do you?
Do you, boo boo?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Like if this is something that she had on her own personal account based upon an agreement that we had from month to month, and then she decided to spend it how she pleased, I don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't spend it, then come back and say, hey, I need some help. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother conversation. But again,
And a whole nother reason for me to curse you out.
you just want to curse. I got you. but again, here's the other thing. If she did it, I wouldn't even see it because it's her own personal account, and I don't really have visibility on her personal account. So what she do with that money, that's on her. I'm not getting wrapped around the axle about that. But again, if it comes out of our joint account, that's a whole nother conversation. And I'm agreeing with you guys. It's not about the money. It's not about how much we make. It's the principle of the thing. And so once the principle get violated, now we got to have a conversation. Greatly appreciate the comments that you guys are putting in the chat. Let me see.
Isn't that funny though? Like none of us really cared about the money. It really wasn't about the money at all. I mean, Chris gonna cuss somebody out, but at the end of the day, it really ain't about the money. You know what I mean? Like none of us. It was
Yeah, it's
not about the money at all.
I am cursing you out for the blatant disrespect you have for this team that we are supposed to be building.
Yeah.
Chris cussing for $5 today, boy. I'm telling
Absolutely.
you.
You come back with a soda in the pack of nab and get cursed out with Chris. What I'm trying to tell you.
Listen, if I gotta come home and like Roland said, I'm eating mayonnaise sandwiches and you walk in with Chick-fil-A, I'm cursing you out.
See, but Chris, when you get married, you're gonna realize you're gonna go in your closet sometime. You're gonna see stuff with tags on there. And oh, I've been had that. No, you got it last week. I saw the receipts on the credit card. And you're gonna see the shoe boxes and you're like, God, dog. You know, like the closet now becomes her closet. You go to the spare room.
Chris, hey, don't listen to them jokers, bro.
All
Don't
right.
listen to them. It's another side of it. They used to be me.
It's gonna happen.
Uncle
gonna
Junior,
happen.
Not now.
Uncle Junior does that every
Yeah.
month now. His J's, his RCs.
Oh my
Bruh.
God.
I
It's
just bought
flipped.
another one.
See?
Yeah. So getting back on track. Getting back on track. All right. The next question under understanding boundaries is what understanding needs to be created between Jacob and Maria to show how might this understanding that one has created help navigate their current situation? What do they need to understand to come out this?
Understand that communication is key, that there's a respect level with certain things in marriage. As a team, the team has to know. And for me, I don't care how everybody else do it, I'm the head of my house. So if the head don't know where we're going, the house is lost. So in situations like this, I'm not trying to control like I'm a, puppet master, but I need to know because I'm making sure my job as protector means that I'm protecting the things. So you don't even worry about the man coming talking about, well, I ain't get paid for the yard. You don't have to worry about whether or not the people come talk about the water and the AC and all this. You ain't got to worry about that. I do. I protect the family from it.
Let me get specific, right? What boundary would you establish when it comes down to finances?
When you making a purchase like this, you need to come talk to me. Bottom line, I don't care what it's for, because if we are supposed to be working together to progress through life together, then we need to talk about big things like this. You understand what I'm saying? And if you cannot come talk to me about something that you think is going to benefit the family, that's going to cost a whole lot of money, immediately I'm going to be thinking, okay, what else are you not telling me? Because if this is a benefit to everybody, then it should be an open conversation. You should have no issue coming to me and saying, hey, this is going to help, but this is how much it costs. You understand what I'm saying? You need to come talk to me, because I'm being nice about it. I'm being nice about it, but seriously, you got to come talk to me, because if I was to blow 30 racks on something that I thought was going to benefit the family, and you know what I'm saying, you would have an attitude. So why not give me that same respect?
The specific would come down to what we talked through during the conversation, right? So a specific could be, hey, any purchase over X amount of dollars, we have a conversation about it. That could be one thing, or it could be something totally different. There are a number of different rules or structures that you put in place in order to protect your assets, you know what I mean, and your future and different things like that. So, you have to have the conversation. So what understanding needs to be created, like Roland said, you need to have the conversation about the finances. How are we going to manage the finances of this house? You know what I mean? And then we set up a plan, and then we create those rules and those structures based off of the plan for the overall financial management of the family, not you, not me. What's best for us? Like Coach said, the most important person in the relationship is the relationship, and not you and not me. So,
Speaking my language, brother.
yep, I listen
I-
sometimes.
I'm gonna stay right there a little bit because you said something and Roland said something that kind of brings together my thought, which is so Roland said, I'm the head of my house, and if the head don't know where we're going, then the house is lost. It's true, but then I'm a caveat to that. If I'm the head, then I need to set what the financial vision of the house is, and then what does it look like moving forward. And now, if that's done, then anything that's done outside of the realms of that vision comes across now as blatant disrespect or disregard. So yes, communication, but communication of what? Of what the goal is, of what the plan is. Why are we saving up money, right? Because we said we're not talking about B&J money. We're talking about
Earl and Tamika.
Earl and Tamika money. So Earl and Tamika bring a home 50, maybe 60. It takes a long time to get to 30. So that means we have a savings account. That means we have money we put to the side for something. And so for me, the key is, hey, we need to stay on topic. You may have thought you made a good purchase, but just in case if that doesn't pan out, we can't go under this amount limit because of blah, 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 blah. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to talk before we spend anything out of there. But, it needs to be laid out. So what we need to understand what the family goal and vision is, and then we can move forward.
What you got, Chris? You still cussing?
Yep. But see, that's another thing that might help navigate the tension when we have this understanding. Do you really want me cursing you out like this every time you do something silly like this? Why didn't you come talk to me in the first place? Because or I'll do a roll and say, all right, you take $30,000 out of your money. Don't come to me for nothing else because you spending your money. I'm not your backup plan and I'm not your father. So I don't have to do none of this. You understand what I'm saying? You a grown up. So with every action, there is a consequence.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I'm agreeing with a lot of these comments in the chat as well. Miss Verly McCoy said it's a sign that there's something wrong in the relationship. I don't disagree with that 100 at all, because I think a lot of times we get caught up in the end state of a thing, but the end state of a thing is just a symptom. And so a lot of times we attack the symptom and never really get after the root cause of a thing. So absolutely. Dracar Brown says that he says that say this said 30,000 purchase causes hardship in the long run. There has to be a plan to cover just in case. I'd rather know said that we can make sense of said purchase. Last minute notice leads to eviction. Absolutely. Especially if Earl and Tamika bringing in $60K a year together. You know what I'm saying? You just can't be can't be dropping half of our annual salary on a purchase. Some of this for us. What? I ain't got no part of that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we got to talk about this. Cassandra's bringing out Earl Simmons. Come on now, really? Let me see. Yeah, you guys are on it. I definitely want to. So Michelle said they need to set a limit to their cost. Exactly. That was the point I was getting at. There has to be a defined limit. I think Uncle Junior said it, and I think Gaddy said it. I think everybody said it. But you have to define a limit based upon what your plan is. Going back to Gaddy's point, what's your overall financial plan? Now, speaking of overall financial plan, I would like to get after the next talking point, because the next talking point is the types of boundaries that need to be established. So the first question here is, what are the different types of financial boundaries that Jacob and Maria need to establish in their household and situation?
Again, it does come down to how much they bring in every month. But something as simple as a budget. They need to define who's going to spend what money. How is the money going to be divided up when it comes into the house? Are we going to have a joint account and then two separate accounts? Are we just going to have separate accounts? I pay this, you pay this. How are we going to manage the overall finances of the family? You know what I mean? And then with that is how you're going to determine what type of financial boundaries you set up. And I think one of them, like, kind of like we already said, if there's going to be money that's going to be spent outside of this range, then we have a conversation about it. But I think one of the big financial boundaries, and if it's a boundary, is that maybe we don't spend money on these types of things. Maybe we don't spend our money on strippers or gambling or whatever. You know what I mean? So it depends on what you guys talk about and what are the rules and structures in your family. So
So let me add a little context here. And Nick D, I'm
Mhm.
agreeing with you. I don't think it has anything to do with what we make. But let me add a little structure. When we are talking financial boundaries, I don't want us just to think monies. So let's look at the entirety of the financial situation of the family. So what boundaries, what type of boundaries should we establish? Or should they establish? I'm sorry.
So are you talking about kind of like values? That's what I'm kind of getting out of this. Like value. What are your values about money? And all right, so I'm gonna roll with that. Since you're smiling, I'm gonna roll with it. So at least I might be warm. I might not be hot. I might be warm. So with that being said, boundaries with money and the values. When I get paid, who do I pay first? Do I pay my tithes? Do I pay Big Mama? Do I go out and buy my alcohol first? You know what I mean? Do I put money in investing first? When I get paid and when you get paid, what are my values and what are my values based upon? You know what I mean? So I think that's a conversation. So having that values conversation about what we choose to spend our money on. I think we talked about it last week, in a relationship, where if someone is getting into a relationship, when we start having that financial conversation, it's like if I'm starting to date someone and I got 20,000, $30,000 of student loan debt that someone is paying off is different than $30,000 of credit card debt from retail stores and gas. So those values are important in those relationships when it comes to setting up those financial boundaries.
Well, since we talking finance, I'm of the school. Y'all always know I got something, but I'm of the school of Dave Ramsey. So I'm
Oh
gonna make an
shit.
envelope, bills. What that say? Savings, her, him. So you got to have something planned saying this is where the money going, and all money is allocated out. So ain't no just straight money out here. No, it shouldn't be just straight money. Oh, this is just extra. Ain't no such thing as extra when you got bills, when you have living expenses, when you have children, you have pets, and you have no, because things could happen. Just like last month in Texas, I had 2 AC units go out. Gotta have money for that. You can't just say, okay, let me rub my hands together and rub a genie lamp. Something got to pay for it. So you got to make sure things are taken care of. And if we just out here frivolously spending $30,000, then we sitting here fanning in the house. No, can't do that.
Yep. And that comes down to your values. What do how you think about money? Not only values, but your financial knowledge too. How do you view money? Do you view it as something that I get so I can pay my bills, or do you view it as a tool to where I can get further in life?
And the envelopes.
In the envelope.
And the envelope.
Yeah.
Under
I got one called Play Money, $100 a month. Go right to Amazon. I can buy anything I want on Amazon for $100 because I got a habit and I like to see stuff come in the mail. So I couldn't beat it, so I joined it.
It's called an addiction coming from
Hey, I'm about to say that.
Hey, I'm soothing my addiction.
coming
So
from
we
an
just-
addict. Coming from an addict, I can say that.
Yeah.
Jens, what you got?
Nah, I was just about to say it sounds like we need to turn this podcast into an intervention right now. But
Hey,
but
my
no,
name is Garfield, and I'm addicted to Amazon.
welcome Garfield. Nah, but I like where everybody just went. But even in our setting accounts, right? We have to have a conversation. So because I believe bills accounts should never be touched until the bills are due, right? I believe savings account should never be touched until we need to tap into that savings, right? And I believe, having your spending or your play money, right? Whatever that is, all of that needs to be laid out in a budget, something that both parties can understand and follow, right? But about our savings money, right? We got to talk about that, right? We can't, let's say, hey, let's get it to $10,000, and that's our cannot go below money, right? Let's say somebody might have a higher money, you rich, that's cool. But let's say $10,000 is our limit, then the boundary we need to set is, now when we go over $10,000, if we get to the $30,000, $40,000 mark, that don't mean you spend it until it goes back down to 10. That means let's talk and let's look at what we can do with that. We got 5 kids, so we don't really get a date night. Let's go on a trip. Let's do something. Let's put this money aside to do something together. Hey, or let's take out $10,000, leave the rest in there, and that'll be the money we split for anniversary, right? Like, because they got to be that conversation being had every step of the way leaves out room for the accidentals or the what happened to, or the oops, I spent $30,000. I forgot to tell you, like, there's no room for that when we're talking along the way and we have a plan. Our base plan is let's get it to $10,000 and never go beneath it. But then when we go above it, let's have that conversation. Now we have room to do things with it. But no one person outside of that set boundary, outside of that spending account and those bills accounts, there shouldn't be any more spending happening unless we come together. So I think for me, that boundary should be set. It should come not just with accounts, but with a set amount of what we need to get to, how much we need to save, and our spending account might need to suffer for a little while until we get there. $100 aside for Amazon might have to hold off a couple of months, just putting it out there.
I would be willing to do that for the overall relationship and the financial security of the family.
We'll just disconnect your card. Hey, Chris, what you got, brother?
I got nothing.
You got
I'm
nothing?
just listening to all of you, and all of you pretty much hit it on the head. As long as every dollar that comes into our house has a job, I'm okay. That would be the financial boundary. Is the dollar working for us, or are we just frivolously spending? Maybe we need to both go to a money management course.
Yeah.
How about we take a portion of that 30 racks you just spit and go learn about some money instead of just frivolously doing it thinking it's going to benefit the house?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Babe, it's going to benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, no.
And if you don't shut...
See, I knew it. I see it. I guess I look at it a little different. So, Roland, thank you for bringing not Gordon Ramsay, Dave Ramsey to the conversation. You brought Gordon Ramsay to the conversation too. But thank you for bringing Dave Ramsey and Financial Peace to the conversation as well. I agree with his principles, just not totally. I think those principles are for those people who have an immature relationship with money. So now that's the thing I like to talk about, your relationship with money. Garfield, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you started talking about values, right? So how do you relate with money? It's not just money, it's finances in its entirety. How do you relate to money? How do you relate to credit cards? How do you relate to investment plans? How do you relate to insurance? Like, how do you view insurance? Do you view insurance as something that compensates you when you die? Or do you view insurance as something that you can extract from while you're living? All of those things matter. And these are the conversations that we actually need to have within the confines of this relationship early. Not when we get to the point that somebody done drop $30,000 on something that they get nothing in return for. So I think all of it has to be discussed. We create a plan that goes toward the vision that Gaddy talked about previously. So when we start putting that plan into action, it makes sense. The only reason why I said that Dave Ramsey's plan is good for those people who have an immature relationship with money, because one of the first things he tells you is to take $1,000 and put it away quick, as fast as you possibly can. I don't necessarily believe that. I actually believe that you should be able to get your hand on 3 types of money. You need to be able to get your hand on $1,000, $5,000, and $50,000. Just like that. If you can't, you need to go back and reassess your situation. Now, I understand that is a goal, and that's what the relationship should be working towards. It does not necessarily mean I need to go to the bank to extract the money. It's 2 totally different things. Can you leverage that kind of money? And how long will it take you to get to it? If you can't get to it within 24 to 48 hours, it's not your money. That's the thing we got to understand. So that's just how I look at it. And so when we look at the financial boundaries that they need to establish, it needs to incorporate what is the immediate, if there's a thing that happens immediately, how can we get to it? And we all agree to this plan. We're all working towards this plan. And then we check it periodically. And not only we working towards this plan, we revisit this plan every 5 years. So every 5 years, we bring that plan back to the table. Do we still have the same relationship with this plan? Well, now let's move this to the right slightly. Let's move this up because we both got promotions and things, so forth and so on. I like Michelle Ray's comment because I think she is 100% correct. And the big piece I want to point out is the concept of holiday spending. Listen, people go in debt, chase behind some dude to slide down the chimney that you ain't got. I'm just being honest. I hate to say it that way. I'm just putting it out there. Stop going in debt for giving gifts because the world say that you're supposed to give gifts. Give gifts to your kids anyway. You ain't got to wait till one time a year to do that. Do it whenever you want to, but make sure that you have the means to do it. Don't go in debt to do it. Sometimes it's okay to tell my kid, no, you ain't getting that. I'm just being, and listen, resiliency starts in the home first. If it don't start there, when they get in the world, trust me, the world will teach it to them. But I like what she says. Don't take on new debt without consulting one another. Holiday spending, gift giving, adhering to the budget. Listen, I'm that person. I appreciate you giving me a gift, but it's not a requirement. My birthday is just the day I was born. I ain't do nothing special to earn it. Just my thing.
A
So
lot of people get guilted into that, though. I
Not
think
me.
some people are guilted into feeling like they have to buy everybody something. I used to feel like that a long time ago, but now I'm just like, nah,
Not this guy.
good.
But,
I'm a
but
card
can we
guy.
be honest? Can we be honest with that one though, real quick on the gift giving? Because maybe not necessarily the gift giving, right? And I feel the same way as you do, right? Coach, when it comes to birthdays and stuff like that. But I'm starting to understand sometimes when I listen to people talk about it, because we get stuck in the hustle bustle of life, especially when you got a house full of kids and you both got jobs. You got to get to daycare, you got to pick up, you got to get here, you got to get to school, got to do this, got to do, and life moves so fast. Before you know it, the year has gone. And me taking this time out for your birthday is the one time I get a chance to focus on shutting everything down so that I can give you that time of appreciation. Because as I know there's a lot of gurus out there that say you got to make the time, and you do got to make the time. Sometimes, we in that phase in life where the time just is not as available as we thought it would be. And so I look at that sometimes like, I'm not going to guilt you into doing anything for my birthday, no. But I understand sometimes we need to set aside time to say, hey, you are the important thing to me in this relationship. That's just me.
You're muted, Ro.
I think that should be done more often, though. I think, like with my granddaughters and stuff. I will just say, okay, be ready. We going on a date. I ain't got to wait till your birthday because they giving you a bunch of junk. You want this, that, and the other, which I'm not about to spend money simply because society says and your friends say and all the commercials say. Because what they do is, I'm going to go with you, Chris. What they do is they cater to your ego. They say, if I don't have this, and it's all about I. So now your ego comes into play when it comes to giving these gifts. Now, if it's a birthday, it's all about you. Like your baby girls back to back, a week after each other. And then you got the other ones. It's like, okay, so now I gotta, just like with these proms and stuff, proms, birthdays, graduation, Easter, Christmas, all these holidays, man-made holidays that they say you got to spend money for. Why I got to spend money to show my love and affection for people? I shouldn't have to spend a bunch of money to show you that I love you on some things that you really don't even care for.
Now, I'm not talking about Ray and them. I'm talking about Olympia and them. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm saying,
Ray.
if I don't want to do something, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't got to talk big and then suck my chest in. I'm seriously saying that when it comes to, holiday spending, I ain't doing it. Not at all. Now, when it comes to certain things, if I want to go and get some flowers, if I want to go and do something, I shouldn't wait until this December to do it. I shouldn't wait until, oh, it's this month, so let's do that. No, if I want to do something, I should be able to do it. And I'm not going to go broke in doing it.
I violently agree. I'm sorry. I have to say it that way. And here's the deal. Sometimes some people need to be broken out of the condition that they were put into, because a lot of the upbringing has conditioned them to say, hey, you got to, my birthday's coming up. Hey, we got Mother's Day coming up. Hey, slow down. Let's talk. Two things. Your birthday, I'm gonna thank your mama. I'm gonna thank your daddy, right? We're gonna do something. Sure, it's your birthday. I'm gonna tell you happy. I'm gonna do all those things, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not doing cheetah flips for your birthday. I'm not doing cheetah flips for Christmas. I'm not doing those things. I used to do that when I didn't know any better. But once I came to another place, I realized, like, hey, you know what? That's a form of, like it is a form of financial manipulation. And unfortunately, unbeknownst to most people, by them striving and putting pressure on you for it, it's just feeding the beast of the stores, the beast of the jewelry store, the beast of all the stuff. Because I've seen people like get off work and rush to the flower shop, get a bouquet of flowers and rush over here and get candies. And I'm just sitting there looking. I'm like, all right. And I mean, teach his own. But at the end of the day, why not do it periodically to where that one day isn't so significant? And that's just the point that I'm making. And again, I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just telling you what this guy does, because I'm not fixing to do all that. Not happening.
It'd be funny on like Mother's Day. You go to Walmart and different places on holidays, and you see a bunch of people in line like getting flowers and presents like on Valentine's Day. I be like, man, y'all whack, man.
Sweating, bro.
Like, you're in Walmart, you know what I mean, on Valentine's Day with a teddy bear and some chocolate.
And I'm not and I'm not judging anybody.
I'm not judging them either.
We have to understand that it's a level of awareness. When you're unaware, you're constantly doing these things, right? Because what you don't want to do is make the other person mad. Well, I'm sorry. That's the definition of manipulation. If you're doing it because you don't want them to get mad, that's manipulation. Why not get to the point to where you have an understanding, right? When we have that understanding, now it's a whole different thing, because I don't have to wait to Valentine's Day. I don't have to wait to Christmas. I can appreciate you any day of the week, any day of the month. And oh yeah, by the way, I might just want to, and trust me, I got it. I've been there. I've had the kids in the house and all that other great stuff. Sometimes you might just want to separate yourself from the kids for about an hour, 2 hours, whatever that look like. Get a babysitter, say, hey, I need y'all just give us a break. And we're gonna go out, me and old lady, we're gonna go out, we're just gonna eat dinner. That's it. And we're coming right back. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to be a special day to do that. And I think in the scope of it, that's part of this discussion, the type of financial boundaries you put in, because again, it is a tactic that is wrapped around an advertising plan that convinces you based upon your emotional connection to these things that you see and say, hey, I want that.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
What if Jacob comes into this reality, but Maria thinks it's just because he's trying to be cheap?
They need to have a talk.
Nope.
Chris.
But and that's why you gotta realize who raised these people. You got to go back and see how were they raised, because they could have been strapped for cash. Now she got a little money, she want to splurge on everything. So they don't know how to save. They don't necessarily know how to spend to where it's healthy. They have bad spending habits. So yeah, you got to talk about all this stuff before you sit up there and walk down the aisle and y'all feed each other cake and all this other mess. Because you're gonna go into a wedding and she's gonna say, well, you need a groom's cake. And you like, I don't even like cake. Give me some cornbread. I'm good. So now
I need a groom's cake. I don't even need this wedding. Get out my face.
But they trying to make you feel involved with a groom's cake that you don't even care about. And yeah, so now you got to buy all this stuff. It's like, hold up, I'm thinking financially where we want to be. You thinking about spending between this and the honeymoon $50,000, where we could just let's pay this house off.
But you got
to have a
to
conversation. Because
I think
the reason why you got to have a conversation is y'all, or you as the head of the household, you probably didn't have something established. And that's why she thought that she could go out there and spend 30 grand. So you have to have the conversation because that happened on your watch. You're the leader, you're the head of the house. That happened on your watch. Why did it happen? What did I not establish in my house to where my wife felt comfortable spending 30 grand? So that's why we have to have the conversation, because I got to figure out how I can unscrew this now going forward. I might have to take the $30,000 loss on this because I might not have established those boundaries in my relationship. I might have to eat that 30,000. May not want to, but it might be my fault. And the only reason I say my fault is because something may not have been established or talked about or discussed, and that's why she thought that it was okay to go and spend 30,000. So on behalf of the men, gotta take some accountability on this, brothers.
I won't even say it's the men. I would just say on the behalf of awareness, because I know a lot of,
Awareness. There we
right,
go.
a
better.
lot of women have this awareness as well. In fact, I
Mhm.
learned this from a woman, to be honest with you. I was like, wait, that actually makes sense. So I think that's the thing that we have to come to the come to an understanding of. This is why I say we have to revisit the plan. When you revisit the plan, you come to an understanding that, hey, you know what? I don't necessarily need to do that. We don't necessarily need to do that. We can stop doing that and divert that over here, right? Another thing is like promotions. What do you do? Like most people, it is a known thing when a person get a promotion, they go spend more money. So again,
All
this
the
is
time in the army.
yeah.
Joe make E5, Joe go get a new car. Joe make E6, Joe go get a new car. I'm like, golly, bro. Like when I was
Yeah,
E7,
and
I was looking like an E5
but that's why
until
I
I
asked
got
the question.
till later on.
But that's why I asked the question, because if I got married at 21, right? I didn't know we doing whatever we doing. We think it's cute, and we going into debt. We getting broke, and I evolve, and I expect her to just evolve because I evolve. I say something, but we like Coach said, we didn't sit down and have the conversation, and so a lot of times it's hard in the middle of a relationship. You 5 years, 6 years into the relationship, and now you want a divorce because you evolved, and she didn't. But y'all been married for this long, so you know what I mean. It gets sticky. That's the only reason why I brought that up, because that's somebody's reality. Somebody is growing, and their spouse ain't grown. So is there a way to say, hey, I'm growing in this area? How do I say you come walk with me in this area? Or do I say, me man, I learn, you listen?
You had it right the first time. I'm learning this. Come learn this with me because this is beneficial to everybody. Now, if I'm continuously learning and I'm continuously evolving, and you stand where you comfortable and expecting me to drop down to your level instead of you rising up to mine, goodbye. You are a hindrance now. I'll take the L.
Yeah, I'm hesitant because that's a very sticky question, right? And I know how I would handle it. That's that's the best thing I can say. I know how I would handle it. I'm right on line with Chris. It's if I can't have a conversation with you, an honest conversation about where we are going, right? And if you have come to the conclusion that you're going this way and I'm going this way, we're divided. We are a house divided. And for me, I mean, as long as we're not married, I'm just going to go ahead and further the divide for you. I'm going to help you do what you've already made the decision to do. There's no need for me to fight you for you. I don't have that kind of energy, patience, nor time. So that is a very easy decision for me. Now, if I miss the mark, and I've already said I do, and this is why I say I'm very hesitant to respond to this. You got to put a little bit more into it. Like you need to go to counseling, you need to go sit down with somebody, bring another mediator and bring Big Mama bring somebody. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we're going to have to figure this out or not. Again, it's still simple for me because I am that person that will be okay with learning that I made a bad decision. When you have made a decision to do this and I'm trying to grab you and say, hey, come back. But you're like, no, I'm doing fine. That's it. And I hate to
Go
make
do
it
you,
that
boo-boo,
simple.
right?
Yeah, I
It
hate
is
to make
that
it that
simple.
simple.
It is that
But it
simple.
is.
Sometimes it hurts more holding on than it does letting go.
It hurts you more because you're going to get drugged in the wrong direction.
Yeah. It's
And I
simple,
think
but it's easier said than done for a lot of people as well. I think for some people, that's the challenging part 'cause they may want to hold on,
I
or they may
agree.
not see it. You know what I mean?
And coach, you know, when we were in the unit together, when I got new soldiers in, I don't care what they thought, what they said, they were going to see the command finance specialist.
Yep.
If you got a family, if you don't, you're going to see the command finance specialist. You're going to set up a budget plan. You're going to do all these things so you're knowledgeable about what you have versus what you think you have, so you can actually set some steps to make boundaries and save and take care of your family and yourself.
Yeah. I want to bring this next talking point up because I think it's feeding into. I want to skip on the. I want to skip over the next one and go to the one after that one. I want to go to communication because I think that feeds directly into what Gaddy is talking about. So, what are some concerns surrounding communicating boundaries? And this is where the wheel fall off the bus.
The main concern is believing that having boundaries and being controlling are synonymous.
Ooh, make it make sense, sir. Say more.
Man, listen, it has gotten to the point where, and I'm going to speak as men. It has gotten to the point where a man actually having boundaries, standards, and preferences is deemed controlling, because in today's society, based off of the interviews that I've had, the people that I've talked to, the men that I've talked to, the women that I've talked to, a lot of women think that they can do whatever they want to and still have a man.
Okay.
And that is not the case anymore. A lot of women think that they can do whatever, they should be able to do whatever they want to, just be whoever they want to be, spend however they want to spend, live however they want to live, and that man just accept it and still be with them. And the men are saying, absolutely not. This is my life. These are the boundaries that I set. These are the standards that I have. I am not telling you you can't do anything. I am telling you that you cannot represent us in that fashion. Because like you always say, the most important person in the relationship is the relationship. And if you plan on disrespecting the relationship, there will not be one. I'm not your father. I can't tell you what to do. But as long as you are in the relationship with me, and if we're talking about the scenario, if you are married and under my roof legally, I am responsible for you. So there are things that you are going to have to adhere to. It is not controlling. It is basically saying, this is what it is with me. If you want to be with me, this is what it is. You can do whatever you want to, but you can't do whatever you want to and be with me and misrepresent our union. That is not going to happen.
I love that, Chris, because nowadays that would be deemed as toxic masculinity, and that's the system trying to switch it over to make men who are masculine and stand in their masculinity seem toxic, whereas it's not the toxic man that's not paying his bills. It's not the toxic man that's beating his wife. It's the masculine man that's taking care of his family and doing all these things. But they switch it up and throw that narrative out there, and then people take it and run with it. And instead of being the stand-up dude that you should be, people fall short and say, well, I don't want to be like this because of how people may perceive me. No, you still have to stand up and be the man that whomever your deity is. I say the Most High told you to be, called you to be, because at the end of the day, my responsibility to my family outweighs my responsibility to be right in somebody else's eyes.
Man. So
I'm going to go another route. Nick D already said it, but I'm going to say it too. A lot of people think that they don't have boundaries because of a specific position that they hold in your life. They really think that they can do whatever they say, do whatever and say whatever to you simply because of who they are to you. And that ain't the case either. Like I said, I'm not afraid to take a loss. I don't care who you are, family, relationship, whatever. These are the boundaries that I have set for my life. This is how I expect to be treated, because I'm going to give you that same respect. If you cannot give me that same equivalent exchange, leave me the F alone. Go on about your business, because this will not end well for you.
Lisa Keys kind of said the similar what I was just about to say, right? Because, but I'm gonna say it differently. I believe strongholds of wrong teachings, they're not concerns for people, but they're limitations on people. Uh, and that's just kind of go with everything that these two brothers just said, right? When you look at the way I'm brought up and the way you're brought up, and we have these two differences, it's because we were taught, just as a society as a whole, right? Man, woman, whatever. A lot of us were taught bad information when it comes to communication, when it comes to boundaries, when it comes to finances, when it comes to relationships. A lot of us were just given bad information. And so that bad information has put a chokehold and a strain on the family unit and the family structure in our community. So when we having this conversation, what we're really talking about is understanding the communication, the barriers need to be established and broke, and the ones that need to be broken down need to be broken down before it gets serious, because this lack of unified thinking going into relationships is what's killing us, right? Because let's be real. Chris brought up a point that a lot of women, especially these younger women now, are hell bent on, right? I have 1,000 boundaries on you. I have 1,000 standards on you, but you better not have one on me. Just take me as I am because I'm a woman, right? But that's because that's what they were taught, right? And the reason why they get away with it, because a lot of us men, we were taught to handle women and the things we disagree with kid gloves. We were taught that women are too tender to be real and blunt with. And so the relationship gets too deep, and now here we are. We've never had a conversation about the things that bother me, because I was never, like we talked about earlier, I was taught I was never supposed to tell you were gaining weight. I was never supposed to tell you I don't like your outfits. I was never supposed to tell you you look too revealing when you're going out without me there to protect you. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, I was taught never to say these things to you because those were no-goes, and now these are the things destroying our relationships. I was taught happy wife, happy life. So the first time $1,000 disappeared, I didn't say nothing. Now I'm angry because 30,000 is gone. So we got to get out of bad teaching on both sides, because that is our stronghold, and that those teachings put us both in these barriers that keep us from communicating properly. If women are as strong as we say they are, then we can be blunt enough about the things that bother us. And if y'all as strong as y'all say y'all are, I understand emotions get in the way initially, but we have to learn how to hear, receive, and either decide to make a change or decide this ain't what it is. That's just me.
Can I say something, please?
Sure.
If I were a woman right now, I would be upset at how society treats us. I truly would. Because for them to be the quote unquote most educated group, they sure get patronized like they don't know what they're doing. They sure do get patronized like nothing is their fault. Like they don't know what is happening. I would be upset. And I would wonder why I'm being patronized so much, since I'm so educated, since I'm so smart. That's just me.
What you got on?
If I'm going back to the question, I looked at it as how much of an impact it can have on the relationship. So one of the concerns is just like, you never know. Sometimes people, when they're trying to communicate boundaries, they may be nervous or scared because they're looking at how is this going to impact their relationship, and because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or they may not want to say something because of fear of what could potentially happen if they say something. And I'm just saying it because I know some men who are in situations in their relationships, but they don't feel like that they can come and bring said situation to their wife for fear of what could possibly say. And it kind of goes back to what Chris is always talking about. You know what I mean? He
Take the L. Take the L.
You know what I mean? So, but that's part of this. That's some of the consequences that this could potentially lead in an L. And if I take this L, I'm gonna hurt. I'm gonna hurt if I don't have this woman in my life. You know what I mean? Because we may not understand the other side of the hurt. You know what I mean? Because we haven't been through it yet. You know what I mean? So I just think, a lot of times I think one of the big concerns is just the impact that that conversation can have on the relationship.
So let me inject another one. I want you guys' opinion. So you guys talked about the fear, and I'm agreeing with you. I mean, wholeheartedly, no pushback at all. But what about the concept that you should automatically know that that's a boundary? We kind of seen that in the video that I played in the beginning, right? What about the concept that I don't necessarily share, because as an adult, you should automatically know that you can't cross that line. What about that?
None of us are descendants of Professor Charles Xavier from the X-Men. None of us can read minds. You better talk. Be a grown-up. Say what's on your mind.
So I think culturally there may be some that you kind of just grow up with. I think there's probably some generalizations, but certain things are different. Like, okay, so there are certain cultures, or there are certain people that are okay with people just coming over and knocking on their door whenever they want. And there are certain cultures like, look, you better call me before you come over here. You know what I mean? So I think that's how it is sometimes as well.
But so and forgive me if I try to over psychoanalyze this clip, right? Because I look at the locks on the doors as established boundaries, right? Me locking my door is me stating to whoever is standing on the other side of that door, those locks means if you do not have a key, do not enter. Right? That's just the basics, right? So the fact that you sought opportunities to go around the locks and the barriers I put in place for you to cross my boundary means that you were being blatant disrespectful. So I think in that case, like it's a little different, because
give me some. So I like where you're going, but make it more personal. Like, we got the lock, that's obvious, and that was a clear and obvious thing. But what about personal? You know what I'm saying? When there is no lock, I can't see the lock. How does that fare?
Ooh. So this my bad. Go ahead.
I got one. All right. So I work with a lot of teachers, right? Different personalities. There's one particular teacher. She likes to talk, and she'll get right in your face, right in your personal zone, right? For some people, that's a boundary, but for her, it's not. So unless someone says, hey, look, lady, you're too close, this is how she operates. So I think sometimes, and I see it all the time, like I've already established, whoa, you too close. But I see other people and how she interacts with other people, but they don't say anything. But I can see them sometimes feeling uncomfortable when she gets real close on them. You know what I mean? So I think that's, when you're looking at boundaries, I think that's a good example of how some people will say something and some people won't when it comes to the boundaries. And then when you don't say anything, a lot of times you'll find yourself in an uncomfortable position when all you got to do is just say, hey, look, pause, you're too close.
But so I like that, but this one to me is a little more, I think, with COVID, for what I was saying, right? Let's go to COVID, right? Roland been on my job. I have these plastic things on my counter, right? Plastic things, and there's a little slip right there for you to give me your paperwork. That's where you hand me your paperwork, and I hand it back through there, right? And now, especially during the COVID time frame, jokers would lean around my thing, pull their mask down, and start talking to me. Hey, bro, this is 3 levels of protection. You just crossed 2 of them. Pull your mask up and get back on the other side of my. I literally put it there so you wouldn't speak directly into my face, but you purposely moved around it, pulled your mask down, then asked your question. Now, if I spray you in the face with this Lysol, I'm gonna be wrong.
You're going to jail. I'm just saying.
I
But
think,
not. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
situation like this, I think boundaries. When I was a single father and I had 3 kids living with me, and I had 2 teenage daughters, and so I would go home to shower, and I had soldiers would want to come by, and like I would go to work and I PT, and I would come home to take a shower. Like, can I come take? No. And then I was like, I got daughters at the house, and then they were like, well, your daughters can go stay in the room, this, that, and other. I'm like, why would I put my daughters in an inconvenience when this is their safe space? So I'm gonna allow you to cross this boundary, and simply so you can come and be around. No, I'm not going. This is their home. They need to feel like this is theirs, not so you can be comfortable in their space, but so they can be comfortable in their space. So I was like, nah, dog, you can take a shower at the gym or something. So I don't think that when we look at situations where you must set boundaries for other people, whether it be just walking in somebody's house, going in their refrigerator. No, this ain't. No, you can't just walk in and do your thing. This ain't your house. I think when you go, you sit down. You don't just go all around looking in drawers, looking in doors, and things like that. These things, sometimes if somebody does, you got to check it right then, because if not, they'll think they can run your house better than you.
So what I'm hearing you say, and I want to make sure I'm clear because this kind of gets after the question I asked originally. There should be boundaries previously established just because you are a mature adult. Am I understanding that's what you're saying?
If you are mature, though, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Chris, you had something, bro?
I'm yes and no, but go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm asking because I thought you unmuted your mic.
No, I'm gonna say yes. However, they still need to be communicated. You still got to say something. You understand what I'm saying? Like I said, none of us are mind readers. You can have all the established boundaries that you want, but if I don't know them, I'm going to do something that's going to cross them and make you feel uncomfortable. I think we need to get over offending people. We need to get over that, because I say this all the time. To speak runs the risk of being offensive. So say something.
What you got on?
I forgot. I got too focused on what Chris was saying.
My fault.
Hey, no,
You good. That's what I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to be actively listening.
So in that vein, I think Cassandra's question kind of is a very good, and it kind of goes after kind of what Roland said, and not the same thing, but it's a little different. What happens when a person just think that you must be accessible when they need you?
Have you given that perception already? Have you already inconvenienced yourself to be there time after time when they call? Because I think that changes the narrative. Now there needs to be a conversation had to set that barrier, because sometimes we do it. Sometimes we don't realize that we're trying to be nice to people, and so we've given them this illusion that we're their personal therapist, we're their personal bank account, with a person, like, oh, hey, let me hold something to payday, man. This is the 3rd, 4th payday in a row, bro. Let me hold something. How about let me hold what you've been holding for 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think sometimes we give that impression unknowingly, especially like I'll be honest. When I see a lot of people that come from where I come from, and they move out of that area or that environment, that that ability to easily just ask for a handout because you used to have to do it. So for some people it becomes easy. So if you leave that door open and you don't know where that person come from, you just being a good neighbor, they're gonna keep knocking on your door.
So I think with this question, what happens when a person just think you must be accessible is this is the time when you have to have a conversation. Look, if you don't like and you don't want to feel like you always have to be accessible to this person, you have to have a conversation and set a boundary. It's a perfect opportunity to set a boundary in your life. You don't like it, set the boundary, and then be okay, like Chris said, with taking that L. If that person doesn't want to accept the terms of your boundaries, that's okay, because if we're cool, they should be okay with the boundaries. They should understand that I have a life as well, and I'm not your therapist, and I can't run to your every need.
And sometimes people don't think that they can make it without you. Whereas, like, if you in certain situations and say Big Mama died, Big Mama 900 years old, and Big Mama done died, you call me at 3:00 to want me to do all this other craziness because Big Mama gonna be dead at 7 in the morning. Call me at 7 in the morning because you're not doing anything at 3:00 in the morning. And it sounds rude and callous, but you gotta honor other people's privacy and time to get their peaceful sleep. You can't just sit up there and say, okay, Big Mama died, what we gonna do? And you want me to worry. I'm not worrying because now we got a plan and I can walk you through that, but we gonna do that in the morning. When you actually think, rest your mind and do all those other things. I pray with you right now, but go to bed and don't call me at 3:00 in the morning no more.
Yeah, see, and again, a natural order for mature adults. And so in the thing for me, I don't have to have that conversation all the time. I'm just gonna be. It depends on the relationship. Depending upon the relationship that I'm in with a person, I will have that conversation. But the same measure that I use that made you assume that I am always accessible is going to be the same measure I use to help you to realize that I'm not. So if it's the phone, it's called caller ID. Go to voicemail. I will call you back at my leisure. And when I call you, and don't send me a text and say, "Hey, I call you at 3:00." I'm like, "What you want?" You know what I'm saying? I don't feel compelled to answer those questions, and neither should you. So if a person assumes that you should be accessible, show them that you're not. And again, it's dependent upon the relationship. I want to make sure I'm stressing it. It's dependent upon the relationship. Michelle Ray has another great question. I think we're going to jump on that one, and then we're going to get going. How do you usher someone into boundaries if they have never been taught or shown a boundary?
You leave,
Forcefully.
you introduce consequence to their life. That is what you do.
But isn't that punishment?
Nope. It's accountability. There is a difference. You introduce consequence.
It's the same way when we were in the Army and they said we had to say those little 3 things. I will guard everything within the limits of my post and yada yada. If somebody, I don't care who it is,
I know you know your first general order, Doc. You ain't
Man,
that
I
old.
have no idea what you guys are talking
All
about.
3 of mine.
okay.
All 3 of them, exactly.
When you were on guard duty, you had to make sure that you ain't let anybody pass without the password and all that other stuff. So now, if somebody's overstepping, you have the right to forcefully remove them. Forcefully. So I think when people don't know boundaries, you have to teach. It's like a dog. And I'm not, yes, I am. I'm referring to people like dogs, like animals, because those things need to be trained. And so do some people. You need to be trained. So when it comes to the training, you may not like it, but you're going to get it. You're going to get a whole heap of it. Like y'all might say in the South, you're going to get a whole heap of it.
A whole heap.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I got to get this point across to know this is displeasurable to me. And I don't want to have to do it again because I'm giving you the nice version right now because you overstepped one time. But if it comes back, I'm what he say? What does Spy Singer say to the face?
Slap.
No, you got to give them something for it, bro. You don't be beating people up or spraying them with Lysol, but give them something for it.
Hey, spray them with that Lysol. Nah,
See,
but
I talk a lot. I talk a lot of noise, but I'm gonna give you the real. How do you usher someone into boundaries if they've never been taught or shown a boundary? You give them grace. You have to. They don't know what they're doing until you tell them what they are doing. Now, once you tell them what they are doing and they continue to do it, that's when you introduce consequence.
Going back to my question though, that I asked earlier, should there be an idea that a reasonable, mature adult have an understanding of certain things?
I think that there's cultural things and cultural boundaries that or differences that changes the narrative sometimes. But there's some things, I think, me personally, but I think we all think that way based off of where you're from or how you were raised. You believe there's certain things that all people should understand, right? I seen a conflict go down at a military ball because people in the South hug everybody, but people up north, don't you hug my wife, especially if you just met her for the first time, right? So it's different cultures. So I think there are things like that, but there's some things that I think we all believe are just routine understandings, right? But it's hard to define what those things are because it's different. So that might be a no, but I think we all believe so. We all were taught certain things. We were all, I'm assuming everybody here was taught when you meet a man and you introduce yourself to him, shake his hand firmly and look him in the eyes, right? And speak up, say with your chest, right? I was taught that. I've ran into some men that weren't taught that. They shake hands softly, and it's like it feel kind of weird because I ain't used to that, right? But but that's just that. I think that's just a teaching that changes the way we understand things. But to hit on that question, I think in the beginning you got to teach them. How do you usher them into the boundaries? You just gotta usher them into it. Hey, no, back up. I tell people on my job all the time, hey, don't walk behind me and do funny stuff. You start making too many noises, I'm gonna get jumpy. And so every time we got a lady that started working up the front with us, she didn't understand that kind of boundary. I don't understand, married to a veteran. So every time she get up and walk behind me, I'm like, hey, now you're doing too much. And I tell her all over and over again, to the point to now she starts paying attention to what she's doing when she moves behind me. Like you can do what you're doing, just take what you got and move it back over there to your work area. But so
yeah,
I sound like something.
No, you can't. I guess for me and Chris, I did that on purpose because I wanted to be something that we consider. I think Michelle said not necessarily, right? You don't know what you don't know. And she said people do people things, and I agree. Like those are some of my favorite phrases. But one thing I will inject when it comes down to this is that your lack of understanding of boundaries prevents you from getting close to me. That's the thing that I really do believe. I don't believe that you get into relationships, situationships, whatever we call it these days, right? I don't believe you get into those types of relationships from with a person who consistently and blatantly disrespect boundaries or crossover boundaries. That's just my thoughts. Now, if we did, that means that we probably rushed into it too prematurely without having a good understanding of who we really are. And so that being said, I think as you look at a person, you understand the person, how they move, how they communicate, all of that stuff, that helps you to understand like more about them. And the more you understand about them, like you don't want to cross those things. You don't want to violate these things. I don't want to irritate this person in that fashion because I seen this person when they get a little irate. Chris known to cuss folk out. So I seen him when he cussed folk out. I don't want to be on the side
And
of
it's
him.
a sight.
Right. flaming rage monster. I don't want to be on the receiving side of that. That's like looking down the business end of a shotgun. I don't want to be that guy. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like I believe in the good order of humanity. I'm gonna say it that way. In the good order of humanity, when I go outside and I meet a person, I don't get all up close to them. What's up, bruh? No, I don't do that. Like Gaddy said, I greet a man. I say, hey, what's going on, man? And we either shake hands firmly, like in a business setting, or if we brothers, you know what I'm saying? It's different. Y'all seen the Barack Obama thing. Stop playing. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So that's what it's like. But both are measures of respect when it comes to boundaries. That's what it is. I ain't gonna meet, like, let's just say, I don't know. I use Trump. I'm not gonna meet Trump and be like, what's up, y'all? No, we ain't greeting like that, because there's a boundary there just simply because of that. So that's just my take on it. We've been going a little long tonight, so we're going to dive into final thoughts for this evening. Again, great conversation. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your points. Thank you for the comments in there. You guys were adding great value. So real quick, I'm just go Uncle Junior, Gaddy, Chris, then Roland, and then I'll come back with my final thoughts real quick, and then we are going to let you guys go. So thank you guys for staying.
I'll say this about boundaries in personal relationships. You have to be aware and take care of your own emotional well-being. A lot of times when boundaries are not set up, we are taking on other people's issues and different things like that. And sometimes we can be a doormat to everybody else's problems. And it can cause so much emotional strain and issue on our own life. So I say, as you go through this journey in life and you have relationships and stuff like that, you have to be careful and make sure you look out for your own emotional well-being. And that includes setting boundaries in your life. I mentioned in the private chat at 10 p.m. at night, between 10 p.m. at night and 5 o'clock a.m., nobody can get through except for about a handful of very important people in my life. I had to set boundaries because I would be up all night long trying to respond to people and different things like that. So it's nothing wrong with setting boundaries in your life. They're okay. It's a great tool to use in your life to take care of your sanity and your emotional well-being. That's it.
I'm just going to pity pat off of Onk. You have to be courageous enough to let your boundaries be known. There's nothing wrong or disrespectful about stating what those boundaries are. I do believe that you have to make sure that you are very clear about what these boundaries are, because I think sometimes in an effort not to offend people, we sugarcoat what we're trying to say. And when it comes to your personal boundaries and things that tick you off or set you off, you have to be clear about those things, or it's going to be understood that those boundaries have limitations to them. And if they don't make that clear, I don't like, or I don't do this, right? People know me. Hey, when I got to a certain age, I said, listen, I don't do clubs and I don't drink and all that other stuff. I don't do those type of settings. And for a while, they used to invite me, hey, come over to the crib. We're going to have a get together and blah, blah, blah. Then halfway through it, hey, let's go to the club. No, I don't do that. But I had to make it clear that there was no limitations to that boundary. So they stopped asking me. And that's all you have to do. Don't worry about offending nobody. It's offensive when you set boundaries and people purposely go around them. So just say what you got to say and be clear.
My final thought is simple. Personal boundaries are necessary because they teach other people how to treat you. You have to be stern in your boundaries and you can't flex, but you also have to extend a little bit of grace because not everybody is perfect and people mess up. Now, when that boundary is pushed after you have already spoken about it, that is when you do what you need to do as a person, whether it's have the conversation again or remove that person from your life. But having boundaries is necessary. That's my final thought.
Personal boundaries, I think, are necessary. You got to have a stern conversation, because when you have a conversation, you make sure that the person knows that it's protecting myself, it's protecting you, and it's also protecting the sanctity of the relationship. And if you go beyond this, there has to be repercussions in order for us to stay connected. Because if there are no repercussions to you crossing the boundaries, then you will keep doing it, and then you'll be like that old saying: you give a brother a rope, he want to be a cowboy. So instead of allow him to be a cowboy, you say it up front, be stern, be you got to make sure that they know, because if they don't necessarily know, they think you joking, they think you playing, then they gonna continue to stretch your boundaries and your patience.
I love everything that these gentlemen said. So I just want to add to it real quick. I think boundaries serve two purposes. In an immature relationship, boundaries serve to help people to understand how far to go, where not to go, the things that they should not intrude upon, so forth and so on. In a mature relationship, you actually respect another person's boundaries to a degree, to such a degree that you protect it. Not just you're not protecting it from you, you're protecting it from everybody else. So when you understand a person's boundary and you have that mature relationship, you're in protection mode of their boundaries. So it looks different. Immature relationships, we're establishing boundaries and we're reinforcing it with one another, right? And sometimes, and in most cases, against one another. Mature relationships, we understand each other's boundary and we're protecting that person from everybody else. So I think that's really how we have to look at it. I'm agreeing with everything that everybody said. I love the fact that Chris said give grace, but I also like the fact that we need to understand that when it comes down to the simple humanity, we have to have the maturity level within ourselves not to infringe upon another person's boundary. In fact, assume a boundary is already there before you make the assumption and test the waters. Like some people you don't want to test those waters with. So that said, that's my point. Again, thank you to everybody. I mean, thank you to these guys, man. These guys are awesome and phenomenal. I appreciate them. I value them. And as you guys heard tonight, they continue to add value to the conversation. I appreciate everybody in the chat, man. You guys were adding such great value. I couldn't get to everything because I know that this was going to be a long conversation. But again, we value and appreciate you guys. Again, tomorrow morning, 10:30, get off your assets and climb the ladder of success. That just felt funky saying. And climb the ladder of success. Yeah, I know, right? I will be here, and it's going to be a two-part thing. It's going to be a first part is for everybody, and the second part is just going to be for the Diamond Club. So that being said, if you're not in the Diamond Club, this is the opportunity to get in the Diamond Club. Trust me when I tell you, you're going to want to get in the Diamond Club because I am challenging people to move outside of their comfort zone into their potential and greatness. So that being said, you guys have a great rest of your evening and have a phenomenal weekend, and we'll see you next week, same time, same channel.